Thank you everyone for being here. Welcome to the monthly EVerest Technical Steering Committee. We have a really packed recording today with a lot of news about OCCP 2.01. We have a lot of news about ISO 15118-20. We finally get our working group started and some new messaging channel, and we really refined the roadmap of the last weeks to put some more details here. And sorry for the bad audio quality today. I have a broken microphone. Anyway, so antitrust policy, we're a big collaboration of many companies and institutions, so please behave, act according to the antitrust policy. But let's dive directly into what's new in EVerest. I think something what was really fun for, I think, several companies and organizations joined the last CharIN festivals in Valencia and in Cleveland, North America. And what I heard, we had quite some successful -20 test sessions with all the testing devices on site and also with the cars as much as they have been able to test this. I couldn't name company names, but so everything the car supported, we also supported. We basically supported more, but beside the testers couldn't try that out. Then I was myself at the CHAdeMO organization in Japan. We talked to the leadership. We also presented EVerest in their annual technical update meeting, and we got a go that we can implement CHAdeMO 2.0 right away. There's also some commitment from Mr. Ahmad Yuhari from the University of Mara. He wants to get that implemented. Some people from Pionix want to help that. Pionix will start with, let's say, a stump library somewhere in January, so it's easier to get it into the infrastructure. And yeah, there's also more people who want to join this over the time. And I think the really interesting and complex thing where probably many people will get scared with CHAdeMO 3.0, which is obviously later on the roadmap, ISO 15118 got intermixed into the standard. So you basically got the biggest monstrous standards you could imagine, because it's included. Okay, this is on Shakari, I would say. Can you talk over that slide?
Great. So while talking to your stakeholders to figure out where we should put our resources initially, whether we're going to do ISO focused or OCPP focused, the team at the Joint Office decided to start with just improving the existing sort of build and test processes, could allow us to get more familiar with the code base, and to make the foundation more solid for us to build on. So our current goal is that every repo in EVerest should have a build and test continuous integration action running. As you have seen from the PRs, that we've been methodically creating CI in every single repo. There have been some questions that have come up around, how the test should run, some overlap with names, and maybe we should have some kind of common workflow that all of them use instead of copying and pasting. So there is a proposal to have a reusable workflow that I believe Dominic is working on. But there's a lot of pending PRs in all of these repos. We're resolving the issues that we've found with maintainers, and we hope that we'll continue getting sort of feedback on the PRs and engaging with the community on getting this done, and hopefully the PRs will get merged at some point, and then everything will be tested all the time.
Awesome. And I think there's already the CI in every repo, as far as I know, which builds the entire EVerest and also cross-checks against the other repos. But as you pointed out, we can definitely improve on that. Okay, sure. Let's go to the next one, I would say. Holger, you want to talk about that?
Sure. So that is actually an update that there's not too much of an update, unfortunately. So actually, Qwello is in crunch time. We are finishing a new product that we will go to certification with in Q1. And that actually led us to forking the EVerest core repo. So actually, EVerest core and EVerest framework to speed up the time to merge in the last month. We're still working on ad hoc, and actually RFID plus remote start and stop are the three scenarios we're focusing on right now. We're ironing out some issues around the EICHrecht, so like getting signed meter values at the beginning and after the end of the session, which was implemented for some of those workflows, but not correctly, for example, for remote stop. We're working, like we're testing our own proposal for ad hoc payment, which we're found some smaller issues with, which we will need to like upstream as well. And then we find a lot of bugs just from like basically trying to productionize the system. Meanwhile, we're also playing around with the new Iskra meters that hit the market. Those are EICHrecht meters that look kind of nice. We actually built a driver for them, which we're using internally as well. We have not yet made up our mind if we want to use these meters or the ones that we have already. But like, of course, the driver will be upstreamed as well. So for this quarter and the next quarter, we will be very busy with certification and the start of production for our new product. But the plan is actually to upstream all of our contributions to EVerest. And I think in Q1, we will need to really discuss what is worthwhile and what is interesting to the community at large and how to correctly integrate that.
And also, I mean, please keep track of high level, at least, what are the major roadblocks, so we can have afterwards like an agenda we can discuss, which we can then prioritize together.
Right. Qwello will also have a talk on the summit in February. And we will actually, we will call that Road to Production, and we will tell the story of basically these 2 quarters.
Okay, looking forward to it. Okay, next one, OCP 1.6 and mainly 2.01. Kai, do you want to take that one?
Yes, in general, a lot of work has been going on in the last month since the last TSC. So I kept this slide relatively short this time, and basically just said that we're still continuously testing with the OCPP 2 testing tool, with a new version having been released yesterday. So we're basically busy retesting things we have tested with the version before, just to see if there's any regressions or if things that were not working in the old version are now working because of some tickets we filed. And yeah, this work is just going on at the moment. And yeah, a lot of new functionality coming there as well. We are also tracking the status of OCPP 201 in detail in this spreadsheet. Hasn't been fully updated yet with the results from the latest testing, but this should happen over time as well.
We'll look into that spreadsheet in a later section of the recording, but thank you. We will have a look. Then I think, Shankari, you had some more insights about JOET backlog and your timeline.
Yes, so as most of you hopefully know, there is a deadline of February 28th that has been established by the US government for as the minimum version to be supported for chargers that are federally funded. So if you're not looking for federal money, then it's not important. But if you want to get US government money, then you have to have ISO 15118-2, OCPP 201, and OCPI 2.1 by February 28th. That is the current regulation. So EVerest already has a solid implementation of -2, but is actively working on 201. So the Joint Office decided to contribute our efforts towards getting 201 to have the functionality that we anticipate will be needed. So we've worked with the EVerest community. The OCPP 201 backlog is public. Thanks to the EVerest maintainers for actually creating those issues. If you look, there is an issue for smart charging, which has a bunch of sub-issues for the use cases, and that is where we will start our contributions. Any questions on that?
Maybe he's making a small asterisk. OCPI is not regarding EVerest. That's kind of protocol, so it's not on us to get that in EVerest. Right. And OCPP.
So that's why it doesn't have its color here.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm a bit colorblind, maybe others as well, and slightly see it. Yeah. And OCP 2.01, whatever means full is still to be discussed. I know that a lot of companies are discussing back and forth, what does it mean to have full? Interpretation is not on us to decide, but I hope there will be maybe clarification from US governments later on. Let's see. But there's EVerest core, let's say OCP 2.01 core, and advanced security is already supported. So that is basically whatever you can certify at the moment. So let's see, but we're also coming back to the roadmap on a later slide.
Right. I will also say that we have tested EVerest 201 with CHAdeMO OS that we said we would do. So we tried that, and we found 2 issues in CHAdeMO OS that were preventing the session from starting. So we filed issues there. They have apparently been fixed but not released. So we are waiting for those updates to come before we retest.
Okay, perfect. So next one, EXI.
Right, just a short update. In the last 4 or 5 weeks, we've implemented the fragment coding, which is required for signing single elements for ISO 20 and for plug and charge. We have an issue with the signing of eMade. There's in the -2, there's a sort of there are 2 different types of eMade in the same schema, and that has some small implications. We need to introduce a fix for that, which is defined by the EXI standard, but we hadn't managed to do that. We've done a few other minor fixes. There's still a few open issues on GitHub. Some stuff which we are not currently actively working on. We're sort of, as the contributing company, have it somewhere in the backlog, but also open for the community otherwise. So depending on the severity, it'll be solved sooner or later. That's what I'm saying. We're sort of in a maintenance mode. So as far as we're concerned, apart from probably the fragment signing issue, the whole thing is quite stable and quite usable, except for a few small things. So we've had some partners integrating it. The EVerest lib ISO 15118 library has integrated it for -20 as well, and it's working quite well, but never finished, of course. We will update GitHub with more issues and clearly mark them as requiring a fix, so that people who come across them realize that there are still opens. And we'll probably need to document that in the README as well, to be quite clear on that.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Yeah, you're right. It is on its way to becoming the default and only and ever EXI codec in EVerest. As soon as we're done with the -20, we'll probably new library, so we don't need 2 different ones. Yeah, that's looking really good. Thank you. ISO 15118, mainly -20. Kai, you or me?
You can probably say, read the slides as well.
Yeah, I talked to, so Sebastian worked on this. He's on vacation right now. So he refactored quite a bit on the ISO 15118 charter interface, makes it clearer and better to understand. there's some minor bug fixes we had from the testables in Cleveland, which are now in. We in principle still working, will for a while work on the -20. In principle, we have now a DC and DC bidirectional power transfer prototype done. What's missing is at the moment that you have to switch to a special branch, and there's no switch in the code which decides like if you go the -2 or the -20 route. That will be added in January. And then this will become, let's say, part of the main line, which is not yet, but it's public. And we can at the moment only test with prototype cars and with hardware simulators, and also with Joseph in the loop. But so far we haven't found a car which really makes it through all the -20, inclusive the prototype ones. We are in discussion with a lot of different car OEMs. We are basically already scheduled next meetings together with them one-on-one to test their next firmware release. So yeah, we're on it. And IMAC will then probably also happen in February. There's, I think, 2 messages and 2 states missing. Then we also have AC and AC bidirectional power transfer. So there's not much missing there either. Okay, but this one is from Kai, EVerest Framework.
Yes, that's actually something that has been worked on for quite some time, to not have to basically run EVerest as root or with a lot of capabilities. It's now possible since, I don't know, a few days ago, to actually specify a user under which EVerest is run, and additionally to specify capabilities per module that this module then needs. This is especially interesting for modules that need network access, for example. And before that, you had to basically run EVerest as root there for doing some things, and now you don't actually have to do this anymore. And I think we already mentioned that in the past, but you can also disable the admin panel backend as well completely, like compile it out. And
Okay. And the final December release.
Yes, everybody probably noticed that the last release from November we skipped, and there's a good reason for that, because one thing we kind of pulled the TSC forward a bit this month, so we could actually release something before Christmas. And we just noticed that coming from these 2 CharIN testables in such quick succession, we did have quite a few fixes that we wanted to add into the November release, and then it suddenly was basically the middle of December already, and the TSC, the next TSC, was in front of us. So we kind of decided to just skip November and do a release this week. There's quite a few interesting things going to be in there, and this is just a very short summary of some of these things. Some work has been going on to improve the start of charge performance for AC basic charging. You can now enable or disable the run script generation, which is interesting if you're building with Yocto, for example. So before that, you needed patches to disable that. Now you can actually set a CMake option to disable them. The token authorization status is now being published by the auth module. We added a new generic and a data transfer interface for OCPP, kind of aligning with how OCPP 201 does things, but also supporting OCPP 1.6 with the same interfaces. There is now a command to explicitly allow firmware updates from a system module implementation that can be triggered by OCPP. For example, for things like when you're having transactions running, that you can only allow a firmware update to actually be installed and reboot the station once these transactions have finished. Stopping the charging process via the EVSE in DIN 7121 now also works properly. We added some integration tests for the new error handling features. Another thing that came from the CharIN tests was the ability to increase a TLS timeout for really slow EV implementations. This should mostly be interesting for testing purposes. If you're talking with a vehicle in debug build, for example, then they might be a bit slower than they should be. And now there's a external ready command for the EVSE manager, so you can basically signal to the EVSE manager, please, wait with your ready signal that you send out until somebody else that needs to do some initialization as well is ready. And as always, this will be released in the coming days, but probably before the holiday break.
Thanks, Kai. Yeah, Shankar, you had your hand raised. Some comments on this?
Actually, on the previous slide. So now that the refactoring, actually one before this too, I think.
Yes.
Yes. So with the refactoring of the module, can we start work on the minimum error codes?
The minimum error codes, I think most of the work is actually in the board support package refactoring. So we have to get that merged in. Let's have the discussion on the mailing list with Cornelius. I think, Kai, do you know the status of the board support package refactoring?
I know there's an open PR.
Yeah, there's an open PR, and Cornelius is working hard on finishing this week. So hopefully it'll be done before the Christmas break as well.
And if this is in, we would have the error codes, let's say, between the hardware and the EVSE manager. And then what's missing, as far as I know, is getting the error codes basically through OCPP to the cloud. But that one should happen after the board support package is done. And yeah, that's already containing the minimal error codes.
Yes, exactly. Or at least a big portion of it is included already in this refactoring. But yeah, those are two separate refactorings, with one of them already being merged and the other one basically being almost done.
Okay. We don't need to discuss every single PR here, but I wanted to bring up the error codes because I think that is a concrete example of how an open source implementation can be useful, because CharGX made this proposal and then we can immediately put it into something that's actually implemented. And so at least from a sort of joint office perspective, it can really showcase the importance of the work that we're doing here.
Yeah, and totally aligned with you. And the board support package refactoring, if you look on that pull request, I think the discussion has 160, 170 entries. So it's one of the most discussed pull requests we ever had across the community, really, really broad. So it's a big refactoring, and that's also why it took a while, but it's active since ever since. So hopefully we can close on this next days. Okay. So let's go on collaboration improvements. Robert, you want to talk through that? Are you here?
Yep,
Yeah,
I am. If I talk, I should show up by Marco. So yeah, we're trying. So as we as Bionics together with our partner have worked really hard on 2.0.1, and our community is now growing. Yeah, we need to improve the way we work together. So yeah, we've worked hard to get 2.0 core and advanced security almost implemented. Yeah, we always track our progress in the Google Sheet between our partner and ourselves. So what we've done in the last week is, after a discussion with the community, create a GitHub issue. So we agreed on, let's try to create GitHub issues for anything that needs to be done. So I created all the GitHub issues for all the 2.0.1 use cases that I know, labeled them with 2.0, labeled them with functional blocks that they belong to. We also cleaned up together with our partner the Google Sheet itself, so it doesn't contain any company sensitive information anymore, and we can now share it with others. So it's also linked here. I've also updated the README of libOCP, so it also links to this. Just needs to be merged into main. And now you can see really which functional requirement is working, which test case has been passed. As Kai said, yeah, there was a new release of OCTT yesterday. We were still running into issues with OCTT. Yeah, so that needs to be retested and updated, and then we should have the latest status. The only thing we need to do early next year is, together with our partner and with you guys, is decide on if we keep using the sheet because it contains a bit more details than the GitHub issues, or we just fully switch to GitHub issues and make sure all the missing test cases are also, or requirements are also in there. What I didn't get time for is to add all the use cases that haven't been finished yet. So a lot of use cases we've started with, and we might miss 1 or 2 functional requirement or numbered requirements. Those still need to be implemented. It's a bit more work to find all of these. So I can do that early next year. That also works. And next to this, I've also added the California pricing requirements white paper or application note that the OpenCharge Alliance has written. Also added use case issues for that as well. So we can also track these. Those cover both OCP 1.6 and 2.0.1. But yeah, that's really up to when those are needed. But at least then they're in GitHub.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So this is how it looks like. We have the first table, like about 1,000 line items. Most of them are done. As we said, we're already running through certification on core and advanced security. So everything the test tool covered. We had been basically as green as the old test tool release was able to get because it had some issues. Yesterday, a new test tool was released from OCA, and let's see when we are basically green with it as well, but probably very soon. So beside OCPP, there's another requirement, things which now finally happen, and that's Zulip. So we have our own, that's like new chat client we will use for the working group coordination. We'll send out the link right after this meeting. We created different streams for different working groups to organize. We'll advertise that, and that now should take some pressure away from the mailing list and some busyness, and on the other hand, enable even more swift communication between people. The account still has to be upgraded to, let's say, a full-featured one that might take some more weeks, but it's already pretty good shape. So looking forward to get the working group started with that. So what's next? Quickly review of the roadmap. So short term, as we said, OCP 2.1 is looking good. 2.1, there will something happen. We'll go in details on that on the next slides. ChargeX error codes, as discussed briefly, will happen in Q1. ISO 15.8, AC union bidirectional is done. Protocol switching happens soon between ISO-2 and ISO-20. XCParser will works well, the new one, and we will switch all on that. So the big other roadblock items or work items we will do next year has not changed. But let's really deep dive into the timelines. OCP 2.1.6, oh, this should be a J, sorry, typo. That's fully implemented. 2.1 is ready for certification, and we are. And there's more things currently in the process. I think Joint Office started to work on smart charging. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And
right, that is correct. So we have created sub-issues for these cases in smart charging, and are starting work on that.
Awesome. Yeah, so there's the timeline basically got condensed because we're making quite some good progress. And 2.1, we also aim to get it implemented basically before it's released. So as Shankari pointed out, it's really nice in the open source community to be the playground for new standards and having something to test new standards while they're still in draft state. On ISO 15118-20, today we have -2 and DIN spec all done. We have the SAE 2847-2 for bidirectional power transfer. We're planning to have this ISO-20 stabilized in Q1, beta release for DC, also DC for AC and AC bidirectional power transfer, also with native. And we also want to get the -20 car simulator fully done by Q1. First on Joseph based, but later on we will switch that in the Q2 to a native EVerest code. So we basically by that get rid of all the Java and Python dependencies for simulation. That's not affecting anything on the deployment on embedded devices because simulation is not deployed anyway, but it eases up the entire EVerest infrastructure for testing if we get that out. So upcoming events. EVerest annual review will be 9th of January as part of the technical advisory committee. That's basically the supervision meeting of this one. Will happen once a year, and the next time is 9th of January. We'll present there the annual progress of EVerest. We'll be on the CES. Shankar, you will be on the Transportation Research Board in Washington on 11th of January.
Yeah, so the Transportation Research Board annual meeting is one of the biggest conferences for transportation in the US, at least, and there are several international attendees as well. It's not focused only on charging. It's not a festival. It's transportation in general. But last year, there was a sidebar after the conference was over on the last afternoon, focusing on interoperability and reliability. And I'm hoping to organize a similar sidebar this year. I still have to figure out all the logistics, but I just confirmed that I can actually do it, and now I have to just plan it out. And so the hope there would be maybe more the public agencies that are trying to put these mandates in place, not just at the state, federal level, but also at the state level, or are actually signing contracts for chargers, get a better understanding of what are the requirements, how we can help, and so on and so forth.
Perfect, thank you. So then we'll be an open source conference, the biggest one in Europe, at least on the FOSDEM. We'll present on the eWorld in Essen. We have our own conference, Open Source and E-Mobility in Germany, which we will probably also stream on YouTube end of February. Come to that in a second. Next Plugfest on the same site, just the days after. There's US Plugfest. I think other partners will be there. There's CharIN Asia, which is currently under debate, and EVerest 37. And basically most important takeaway, please register on that conference if you can travel to Europe, and afterwards join the Plugfest from OCA. And if you can't, follow us on YouTube. We'll share the links before the conference. And that's it of the EVerest discussion. Really looking forward to rock with you the stage next year. There's so much growth, so much also growth pain, the huge ramp up in community in the last 2 months, and I think we'll get all of that resolved beginning of January. And that will be an amazing future for the EVerest community and for the entire EV charging industry. In that sense, have a great holiday season and hope to see you next year.